gentlemen, it's July 30th, 2025. This is the Carson City Consolidated Municipal Planning Commission, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Chair Borders,
Present?
Vice Chair Cron,
Here?
Commissioner Preston, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Pizell,
Here.
Commissioner DeChristopher. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's see. Commissioner Peterson, will you lead us in the pledge, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I take public comment, I'd like to welcome our new district attorney substitute, I guess. Is that what you are today? You can't operate the machinery, you can't.
That's correct. That's correct, Mr. Chair. My name is Lucas Burr. I'm covering for Ms. Niagos. She'll be coming in after another hearing she has later today.
Okay, we'll just keep it square. The public is invited at this time to comment on any topic that relates to a matter over which this public body has supervision, control, jurisdiction, and advisory power, including any such matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action will be taken on any matter that's raised during this period for public comment. And I'd also remind you that if you're here for public comment on an item on the agenda, please hold your comments until we get to that agenda item. This is just for general comments. So is there any general public comment at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5, possible action for the approval of the minutes of June 25th, 2025. You have the minutes in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Not here.
Have a motion to approve them, please.
I move to approve the minutes as
All right. Commissioner Brooks made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Pizell seconds. So any further discussion? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And Commissioner Preston abstains. All right, item 6A. LU 2020-0027, discussion and possible action regarding a review of LU 2020-0027, previously approved SUP to allow for the permanent placement of a metal storage container at the multiple use athletic center, the MAC, on property located PR at 1816 Russell Way, assessor's parcel APN 002-101-91. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. The subject property is the location of the multi-use athletic center, or the MAC, off of Russell Way. On August 27th, 2020, the Planning Commission approved the placement of an 8-foot by 40-foot metal storage container to the rear of the existing recreation building. At that time, the Planning Commission approved the request, but required a 2-year review with an explanation as to how the applicant would be addressing a permanent storage solution. Unfortunately, the 2-year review was missed by staff until a recent audit of the metal storage container SUPs uncovered that there was a need for this review. So Parks staff has explained that the container is used for the storage of all outdoor equipment such as kayaks, paddle boards, camping equipment, etc. The location of the container provides easy and safe access for the community members and staff to pick up the equipment, and the container has been painted to match the building. The applicant proposes to continue the use of the container as a permanent storage solution. There are 6 findings of fact the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative in order to approve a special use permit. Staff continues to be able to make all findings and is recommending approval subject to the original 2020 conditions, with the recommended deletion of condition 11 requiring the 2-year review. Dan Earp with Parks is here representing the project, and I'm available for questions.
Great. Any questions of staff? Yes.
Heather, it's difficult for me to tell from the photos and the graphics in the report does the container reduce the amount of available parking, or are those available parking places? in
No, it
front?
does not. It does not impact parking at all.
Thank you.
As a matter of history, when we originally considered this SUP, the MAC was pleading that they needed a temporary place to store equipment for their summer programs. And the council at that time agreed to that as a temporary storage area. And that was why the 2-year review was placed in there, because they, at that time, indicated that they were going to build something else more permanent. Obviously, that's not happened. Okay. And the applicant?
Oh, I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And it goes along that same line, what you were kind of granting some history on. One of the questions that I had is in the discussion on page 3. The applicant is proposing that the continued use of the container as a permanent storage solution and I guess that'll be made as a part of the motion. Heather, could you speak to that a little bit, please?
So the code allows for permanent placement of containers. So that's what your typical special use permit for a metal storage container. Unless the Planning Commission sunsets that somehow or requires an additional review with a condition of approval because there's some impact that they want to maybe evaluate in a few years. The code does not require typically an additional review. We're looking at permanent placement in all cases now with the way the code was adopted in last year, the end of last year.
Yeah, I guess that's just kind of the history that I'm kind of looking for, is that if the commission originally was looking at this as a temporary solution, I mean, I understand that, and I don't know what was represented at that meeting or what Parks and Rec represented at that meeting, but to me, and I don't have a problem with it, I just want to make sure that there's a consistency here, and if there were issues, that there was some thing that the Planning Commission was expecting that didn't happen, and now all of a sudden, we're looking at a permanent solution. This is the permanent solution. I just wanted to be sure that that was on the record, that it was going to be similar to what all the other containers we have approved around town.
That's correct. And to my recollection, although this was 5 years ago, I believe that the real issue at that time was the commission was kind of evaluating, not through this process, but through their Title 18 update, evaluating whether or not metal storage containers were something that they were going to allow as permanent storage solutions. So that process has been completed, Title 18 has been updated, and they can be used as a permanent storage solution. So at this point, I see no issues with deleting the condition for any kind of additional review.
Okay. A follow-up question on that. So then, as we've talked about previously, when it's time to review these containers, this is going to be something that's done by staff, correct? Is that how the new process works with the other containers around town? So I guess what I'm asking is that this container now falls into the review that everybody else goes through, correct?
Right, so staff has the ability, if they see something that is an issue and folks can't bring it in or won't bring it into compliance, then staff has the ability to bring forward that special use permit for possible revocation and come forward to the Planning Commission. But first, we would be looking for compliance, so we would be working with that property owner to try to get them into compliance with the code and their special use permit. And if that did not resolve itself through the compliance avenue, then we can bring it forward to the Planning Commission for possible revocation.
Thank you.
Applicants here? You agree with the, actually, it's 11 conditions of approval?
Yes, Dan Arp, Recreation Superintendent with Carson City Parks, Recreation Open Space here for the record. And yes, I agree with everything that Heather is presenting.
And I will agree with you that the storage container is painted to match the MAC, but it's matching the top of the MAC. Would look better if it matched the bottom next time you paint it. But I think a darker color would match better. Now it sticks out. And I also, Heather, I would agree with you, the consensus, I think at the time we did that and why we put the 2 years on it was because we didn't know where we were gonna be with storage containers. And that was kind of a safety valve for us. Are there any other questions for the applicant? I'm sorry.
Yeah, my question is for staff. I just would like some clarification. So you're saying that if a container, not this particular one, if a container on any other piece of property that was not issued with a special use permit does not conform, then you'll bring it back to the planning commission regarding the special use permit?
So what I'm saying is if there was a special use permit and they are not in compliance with their special use permit, we will seek compliance. And if that is not possible because they either don't want to comply or they cannot comply, then we have the option, as with any special use permit, to bring that forward to the planning commission for possible revocation.
I think what your question is, a new storage container still has to have a special use permit.
It depends on the zoning, but
Yeah,
in most cases, in a commercial or a public zoning district, yes, a special use permit's required.
Okay, yeah, that's what the question I had, or whether or not it just went through code compliance. So, okay, thank you.
any other questions for staff or the applicant? Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. I'm gonna add a little bit to the motion. We'll see if the commission likes it. I move to approve the review of LU-2020-0027 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the amended conditions of approval included in the staff report with the removal of condition 11 and that the container will be now used as a permanent storage solution for the MAC.
Okay. Is there a second? All right, thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Any further discussion? I'm sorry. Public comment. Before we vote, is there any public comment on this issue? I apologize. All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
Aye.
Motion carries. Someone needs to watch me. All right, item 6B, LU 2025-0248, discussion and possible action for Ramirez Pipeline for a special use permit to allow for outside storage of equipment and materials and the permanent placement of a metal storage container on two abutting parcels zoned Air Industrial Park located at 2451 and 2501 Arrowhead Drive, APNs 005, 06204, and 05. Heather.
Good afternoon, Heather Manzo for the record. So this was a request that came through the Planning Commission for outside storage in 2022 and was approved at that time. However, the applicant had received approval and didn't move forward with compliance with all of the conditions to make the SUP in effect. And so we're now at a place where the site plan is essentially the same as it was previously. And the applicant has come in to request a new special use permit since the previous one has expired. So I did want to note that in the staff report, it discusses the required setbacks. So for this zoning district, the rear setback is 30 feet and the sides are 20 feet. And the way that that applies to this request is that where they're showing their proposed outside storage is in the green area. And I think all of those areas are within the setback. What code says, and code was adopted in December 2024 was our update. What our updated code says is that any outside storage must meet the setbacks. So there is a condition to require that they comply with the outside storage requirements, which will include compliance with the setback standards. And in addition to the outside storage, the applicant is requesting the placement of a storage container. It has been placed next to the building. And when I conducted my site visit a few weeks ago, I noticed that they had a couple of things stored on top. So that is part of the recommended conditions, is to go ahead and just not put anything on top of this storage container if that is approved. So staff was able to make all of the necessary findings with the recommended conditions and is recommending approval of the request. I didn't receive any public comments on this item, and the applicant should be here if you have any questions for them. Thank you.
Okay, questions for staff? All right,
Heather, that looks like a pretty substantial amount of new pavement. Is there a change in their stormwater and drainage requirements?
I can let engineering answer that question.
Sure.
Tommy Purvis for the record. They would have to end up doing a drainage study due to the amount of impervious surface that they are adding, and then follow through with that.
And is the My mic's back anyway.
This one's working now.
Yeah, we're live.
There it is. Mine's up too.
Hello?
Mr. Peterson, try your power switch on
Ours
your
work-
monitor.
I know mine's working
Try the
right now.
power switch on your monitor.
Okay, I can get to voting.
Okay.
One up there when it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours is up.
Yeah.
More thunder.
Yeah.
Hope everybody rolled up their windows. Get him a thunder shirt.
What's that?
Get him a thunder shirt.
Yeah, I've been talking about doing that.
They work great.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody but you, Greg. Yeah.
Yeah, it was never on. It was never on today.
Oh. Well, my eyes are pretty good if you want to steer this toward you.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Oh.
Mr. Peterson, you want to go to the other end of the dais?
Oh, I got it.
Oh, you
Oh.
got it?
Yeah,
Okay,
IT got me fixed up.
okay. Tomorrow, we ready? All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for that pause. Questions of staff? Commissioner?
Yeah, I had one, or several actually. Did we get, you were in the middle of answering your question, or a question about the drainage study. Did you want to complete that before I ask my question?
Yeah, I guess my question is the SUP linked to the pavement, or is the pavement going through a separate approval process that will look at the drainage consideration?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the SUP is for the storage container and the outside storage only.
Okay.
We know they're gonna have to modify their plan a bit just because they've got to relocate the outside storage, but the pavement's a separate matter. The applicant's aware that where they park or move vehicles, they'll have to pave that.
Terrific, thank you.
And I'd like to follow up on Commissioner Brooks's questioning. As I read it, and that's a very large piece of property, the drainage study, should that be actually a condition 11 on this particular special use permit? Is there a particular reason why you didn't highlight that? So again, if it's going to go through a separate process, does it need to be a condition on this special use permit?
So the drainage study is a requirement based on the impervious surface. So that's something that when they come in for a permit to do the pavement, they will need to provide that study.
Okay, so that's more of a code requirement than, okay, so we don't
Exactly.
need to worry about that, okay. Then the next question along those same lines related to drainage. We've talked a lot about the paving areas and what will be asphalt. Will the rest of the area be gravel? Will the rest of the area be dirt? My impression is that you're not going to pave the entire site. It's just going to be the traffic areas and places where they park. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's what's being proposed, and we can turn it over to the applicant to kind of inform the planning commission on what the unidentified areas are going to be used for and what the surface might look like.
Okay, very good.
Before you do that, Commissioner Preston.
This question is for staff. You indicated that initially that the original SUP was not complied to. So now, are they complying, or are there still some outstanding items from the initial SUP?
Well, essentially, what I did is I took a look at the previously approved special use permit, and it was under the previously adopted code. So some of those conditions came off because they were either code requirements or the code had been modified. So anything that had been previously conditioned on the project has been carried forward where applicable. And the applicant is prepared to bring this site into compliance based on today's proposal.
However, and the applicant's here, In 2022, you said you were gonna pave the parking lot, and you haven't paved it yet, and now you're here wanting another special use permit. I mean, what happened in 2022? Why didn't this happen? Go ahead, sure, that's why I'm asking.
Chris Foster with Mears Pipeline. It did not get, the additional paving that we have highlighted there did not get done in 2022 because there was a level of ambiguity between the special use permit, our landlord, and what we were there to do. After several conversations back and forth between the city and our landlord, where at least Mears fully understands the parameters around the SUP. That's why we're here renewing this, because had those conversations not taken place, we would have just continued business as we were doing. We did, and it came to a head when we tried to renew our lease to rent this property. That's how this all got identified, and we became aware of our, the company being out of compliance. So we're trying to correct that issue and move forward with this. So that is why it did not get paved, along with the slat fencing. Originally, we put up the fabric. That's not allowed. We put in the slats. It's not 100% around, so we're out of compliance there. That's now being corrected. Paving's being corrected. There's a permit application for the paving in with the city currently, and the drainage studies along with that. To answer the question about the dirt lot to the east, or the dirt section to the east, that will be compacted base material for a trailer parking or
Vehicle storage.
vehicle storage, yeah. Something where it's not being tracked on daily.
Okay, there are 10 items, conditions of approval. Will you accept all those 10?
I do have a question on the outside storage container. It was mentioned in there that the signage had to be removed. So there are two signs on the side of that storage container. One is our company emblem, our logo, and the other one is a safety checklist. Every day, because we're in and out of this I have 20 crews leaving this job site, and that safety checklist was there, like last little pop into their view as they leave the gate. I was hoping that would be accepted to leave in place.
So I'll provide clarification on what constitutes a sign, and that's any copy. We don't have the ability to look at copy independently, so it would be my recommendation to take down the instructions and post them either at the building or on a freestanding posting somewhere on the site where the contractors will see that. Our code does not allow for any signage on the containers. That's part of the requirement.
Okay. Commissioner Crone.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification related to what's going to be paved and what's going to be compacted gravel base. Thank you for that clarification. I have a question, and it goes to both staff and the applicant on condition 4. Timeframes are important, since somehow this slipped through the cracks the last time. We're talking about in condition 4, the applicant shall submit the site improvement permit application with 30 days of the approval of the SUP, which we'll see how that goes this evening. But assuming that it does go forward, that gives you 30 days. You've got to obtain permits and construction being commenced to establish within 6 months of approval. That would have to move quickly, or we're going to end up in winter. And then paving isn't a good option, if you're talking about November, December, January type of timeframes. So I just want to make sure that this condition, kind of from a project schedule perspective, is doable. I just don't want to put them and the city back into a situation where, you'll have to come back to us and say, hey, they can't do it in 30 days. Construction is going to have to happen in 26. So I guess what I'm just saying is the applicant and staff comfortable with that 30-day time frame, and then 6 months to get the project completed with winter happening in 4 months.
I believe the condition talks about construction commencing within 6 months. So essentially, they'd need to get a permit within 30 days and within 6 months, get the shovels in the ground and continue work. So the way that a permit remains active is by continuing through the inspection process until it's completed and finalized out. So, and we can turn it over to the applicant to speak to the timing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Preston?
I have a question that I see that the proposed paving now actually has an apron that goes up to Arrowhead Drive. And I think I'm kind of surprised because there's 20 crews going in and out, material going in and out, people coming in to report for work, and we have one entrance and one apron, which typically we have other improvements that are required on a lot of these. So I was just really surprised that this one seems to be very minimum, considering that we've actually had traffic studies, we've actually had to put in travel lanes, all sorts of other things on other pieces of property. So I'm wondering why this has an exemption.
Darren Schultz for the record, Public Works Director. I'm just, my understanding is that yes, that is a number of vehicles coming in and off of that, but it doesn't trigger, it's not enough to trigger a full traffic study and or improvements, deceleration, acceleration lanes, that sort of thing, so.
Is there any kind of surety we can get to make sure that this doesn't fall through the crack again?
Well, we have the
Heather,
conditions
I'm
of
looking at
approval. I mean, I can always track it. We try to track those things when they have already established and are kind of out of compliance with the request that's before you guys. So staff will participate in tracking this project as it goes through.
Okay.
And if it's not in compliance, we can always bring it back to the Planning Commission if necessary.
And you had a concern about the signage. I think she clarified. Is that going to be still acceptable to you?
I can remove the signs, yeah.
Okay.
I want to try and add a little level of comfortability here with the timeline.
Okay.
Okay, the permit is in the city's hands. I'm waiting for the sign off and we'll begin paving.
Okay.
So like it's ready to go.
So the
For-
drainage plan we're all concerned
For
about is
the, for
done.
the apron, because that
Okay.
was that was a different permit needed for that one. Completely different engineering. The paving internally is in with a set of engineers for the drainage study currently.
Okay.
As soon as those are obtained, we'll start working through the permit process to get that done.
Okay.
We're a licensed paving contractor, so as soon as the permit is available,
Yeah.
part of the vehicles parked there are paving equipment, so we can get right on it.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
that clarification. Yeah. Any other questions of staff or the applicant? Is any public comment? Hearing none, what's your preference?
I'd like to make a motion.
All right, Commissioner Pazell,
I move to approve the special use permit based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
I'll second.
there's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Mr.
Motion
Chair, who
carries.
seconded?
Pardon?
Who seconded? Mr. Cron?
I'm sorry?
Did you second?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry we beat up on you. Discussion and possible action, item number 6C, LU 2025-0249. Discussion and possible action regarding a request from Stephen and Angelica Perry for a special use permit to allow for the establishment of a commercial childcare facility on property zoned retail commercial and located at 644 Hot Springs Road, APN 002-06202. Heather.
Thank you. So this project is located on the northwest side of Hot Springs Road and has long been established as a single-family residence. So this will be a change of use to a commercial facility. And so with that, I think one of the biggest changes that the applicant gets to face is the commercial parking lot. And then single-family uses don't require landscaping. So when it goes to a commercial use, we do expect for the landscape standards to be met. They do have some landscaping on site. It'll need to be enhanced to meet the code. And they do have a proposed parking lot as shown here. So what our code says is that they need to provide parking for employees on the highest shift and then also have loading or pickup and drop-off areas for parents to drop off children. So where we see Ls, L1 through 5, those are all the student pickup and drop-off parking spaces. They are providing an accessible parking space as well, and then parking for their employees. So staff was able to make all of the necessary findings related to this request. I did want to note, I didn't include in my presentation where the outside play area is going to be, but where that is up on the top area here, kind of where it says setbacks are 30 feet against the residential. It'll be back in that area there. They've saved some area that's highlighted in pink on the site plan that they'd like to kind of set aside in case they are successful and are able to expand their facility. The request for up to 50 children does include that expansion area. So assuming their project is successful, this is their special use permit, and once established, they would be approved to do their expansion later on as long as it's as proposed today. So we were able to make findings. I didn't get any calls or questions from the public, and the applicant is available for any questions you might have for them.
Okay. Heather, I know that we don't anymore put the requirements of state licensing and that in there because it has to happen anyway. But do they require a city permit?
Yes, so once they get their state license, and I did ask the applicant where they were in that process. They had identified a different site before that had been approved. They didn't move forward, so they are aware of what the state process is. Once they get their state license, they come in for a business license from the city.
Would that not be appropriate to put in a condition?
Again, it's a requirement, so any business that establishes in Carson City is required to get a business license, so
Okay.
not necessarily a condition.
Questions for staff? Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, a question. So okay, that's the clarification. So, so is the SUP that is before us is an SUP for 30 children, or is it an SUP for 50 children?
It's for both. So the application proposed 30 children now, and they have shown where their expansion area will be and are asking for approval up to 50 children.
Okay, because I would really like to hear from the applicant. 50 kids is a lot of kids on that site. And I really don't have any problems with the 30, but I'm struggling going to 50 personally. Okay, so I need some help from the applicant to get me there, because right now you don't have my vote.
Angelita Romero Perry. So based on the childcare licensing, each child will only need like 35 square foot indoor, and then 37 square foot per child for the play area. So the current structure right now can accommodate up to 27 children. And then if we do an expansion, it will accommodate a further 23 or 24. Tammy Hutchinson already went there and looked it up. And I have proposed to her if the expansion would be possible, and she said yes to it. That's why we are proposing in this special use permit if that can be done.
Okay. If I understand it, also, Heather, maybe you can help me too, but when she gets her license from the state, it's going to be based on the actual building that's there. So she's going to get a permit for 27 people, 27 kids. Is that correct?
That's right. So the state evaluates the square footage of the interior and the exterior to confirm how many children can be licensed at that facility. This request would max it out at 30, but if the state says there's only room for 27, that's what they would issue the license for. And then with the addition, same thing, the state will issue an updated license for the additional number of children. And they've made their proposal based on a max, but if the square footages only allow for 47 children, obviously that's all they can establish with. And I did want to note that the engineer that prepared the site plan and the traffic generation memo did note that this parking is proposed for both now and future need.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be, just to get clarification, so that that parking lot layout would handle drop off and pick up for 50 kids. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, and we can ask I know they included some information in their application about staggered pickup and drop off, but obviously that would be an essential component of their operations. And we can speak with the applicant to get a better idea on what that would look like.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
Any other comments from staff or the applicant? There are 5 conditions of approval. Are they acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. Public comment? I got it. Is there any public comment? Hearing none. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just would like to say to you guys, congratulations for finding a space, because I know you've been looking at this for probably a couple of years. And so I'm glad to see you've come down this far. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay, other question. Clarify for me, Heather, regarding the landscaping. We're keeping the tree, we're keeping some mature vegetation. Do you need some additional language to condition 5 to make that clear? I'm just, you're talking about an expansion, you're talking about a playground area. Will they be able to meet the landscape standards necessary for that expansion?
So in terms of what Division 3 requires for a commercial use, it's 20% of the impervious surface excluding the square footage of the building footprint. And in visiting the site, yes, they are capable of making that requirement. I don't have any concerns with them not being able to make it, but they will have to include the permit for the landscape and irrigation, since that's part of a commercial change of use package for a permit.
Okay, so if we're going to keep, so I guess I'm putting back that to staff, is that if we're talking about, is the information in the staff report related to keeping the tree out front and saving some of is that enough within your staff report that you feel comfortable to be able to hold their feet to the fire so we don't go back there in a year and all of a sudden it looks like Southern Nevada with nothing out there?
Yeah, I believe condition number 5 is adequate.
Is adequate? Okay.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Since you did all that, you can make the motion. Oh, all right. I'm sorry, Commissioner Preston.
Appreciate it. I move to approve a special use permit LU-2025-0249 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
And is there a second? Second by Commissioner Brooks. Any further discussion? Public comment? I already took it.
Yep.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations.
We would like to thank everyone.
Item 6D, LU 2025-0250, discussion and possible action regarding a request from the Carson Montessori Charter School for a special use permit to establish a school for a maximum of 89 students at the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada on property zone PR located at 1840 and 1870 Russell Way, APN 002-101-92 and 002-101-90. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. So I'll start with a little background. The Carson City Montessori School has operated at its current location at 2263 Mouton Drive since 2006. At that time, schools were allowed in the limited industrial zoning district. Subsequently, the code was amended and no longer allows schools in the limited industrial zoning district. Therefore, the location at 2263 Mouton Drive is considered a non-conforming use. In 2017, the school applied for a special use permit to expand the non-conforming use onto a property diagonal from the original site and zone limited industrial. The SUP for this expansion was approved by the Board of Supervisors on appeal. However, the SUP expired after 2 years, and the school continued to utilize the space for classrooms at 2211 Mouton Drive until June of this year. The applicant is now proposing to establish a school in approximately 5,630 square feet of space at the Boys and Girls Club, as well as their outdoor areas, including the adjacent field. This space will accommodate a maximum of 89 students and 8 teachers. The site is zoned public regional, and a school is an allowed use in the PR zoning district, subject to first obtaining a special use permit. The Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada received approval for their Carson City facility at the April 30th, 2003 Planning Commission meeting. The club provides for a variety of youth-oriented programs and may operate 7 days per week. The school would utilize the facility during the school year from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday through Friday, where there's low demand for the club space and programs. Additional parking is not required to accommodate the school use. The Montessori bus will be responsible for transportation for approximately 84 children and 1 to 2 staff members. Buses would pick up in the morning from the Mouton site and bus the children to the Boys and Girls Club. And then in the afternoon, the bus would take staff and approximately 69 students back to the Mouton site. Staff has incorporated a recommended condition of approval requiring busing operations to be substantially in compliance with those as outlined in their application. There are 6 findings of fact the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative in order to approve a special use permit. Staff was able to make all findings and is recommending approval, subject to 6 conditions of approval included in the staff report. We did receive public comment regarding concerns with traffic in the area, and that email is included in your packets. With that, I'm available for questions, and I believe Jessica Daniels and Sarah Lobsinger are here representing the project.
Heather, what's the origin of the 89 and 8? Is that,
That is what was included in their application.
okay. Is it, and I'm looking at condition number 6, when we're actually specifying as a condition of approval those numbers. And we're saying that 84 kids are gonna ride the bus. Well, what happens if 85 kids ride the bus? I'm a little squirrely about us. I don't have a problem setting a maximum, but there's no flexibility in this for the operation of the school, it doesn't seem like.
Perhaps the applicant wants to weigh in on this, but one of the big issues was pickup and drop off and how that's going to impact that site. So one of the reasons that we feel comfortable making the findings, and one of the reasons that a traffic study wasn't required, was because of the plan to bus the vast majority of the children. So we can look at maybe modifying that condition a little bit, but we don't want to get to a point where we're having the majority of kids being dropped off.
Oh, yes, I agree wholeheartedly. It just seems like we're limiting any kind of flexibility by saying, you know, it could be initially it's 84 kids. Maybe tomorrow it's 86. Maybe next year it's 83. But I don't want to, I feel uncomfortable putting numbers like that in our SUP for their operations, so
Okay, understood.
here she comes.
Do I hold it? Sarah
Yeah.
Lobsinger for the record. Thank you for that question.
So originally, when we were working with the traffic engineer, we were kind of talking about the issue with traffic. Some of our students already start at the Boys and Girls Club for their morning program, so that's why there may not be a need to bus them because they will already be there. The same as after school. So we have several students that that use Boys and Girls Club for after school care. So there was no need to take them back to the Mouton site. In addition to that, we do have several students that are driving over there with their parents because their parents are teachers. So it kind of, that's where some of those numbers came in.
I just, you understand, I'm not trying to knock that down. I'm just saying I don't want us to limit you on what you can do.
We appreciate that.
You know, I like words like initially, so that if it changes and it still makes sense, it's still acceptable.
Well, and our goal is to limit traffic as well. So we knew, you know, we were even kind of looking at that number thinking if we added a bus, you know, if we did have room for more students, it would be nice to not be tied to that number. Not thinking we would have more traffic, we might just have one more bus. So,
Well, I'm just thinking about the total operation, not only just the busing, but, you know, what happens next year when you have 92 kids?
right.
If you can get the Boys and Girls Club to allow you to accept 92 kids or bring 92 kids over there, we've already told you can't bring any more than 89.
Right.
And that concerns me because now I'm in your business. And I don't think we ought to be.
So if I can jump in, the issue again with that is impacts from traffic, pickup and drop off. So that's our primary concern. So if we end up increasing the number of students at that location and thereby increasing the number of pickups and drop offs, I understand you're looking for some flexibility. And I can see what I can do with the language here, but at some point, we're going to hit a tipping point where, you know, we've provided so much flexibility that now we have an issue at that location.
Okay.
Or at least there's that potential.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What percentage of capacity are you operating at today? How many students do you have?
We are at, as far as like enrollment for next year, or at, I mean, we're at 89 right now.
Okay,
For that
so
facility.
your
I have
proposal is based
started,
on your current attendance levels?
um,
Or is it?
Current enrollment level.
Yeah,
w-
yeah,
right.
thank you. Yes, good catch. And what's the growth curve been like historically? Like, where were you 3 or 4 years ago?
We hover around a total of 284 students.
Okay,
And so we're thinking we'll have about 200 at the Mouton site, and then we hover around 84 of these 4th through 6th grade students. So we're at 89. So we've started a wait list so that we can stay in compliance.
okay, that's helpful. I didn't know where you were in your organizational journey. Like if you were ready to do a hockey stick level of growth, that should be factored in.
Yeah. Once we have a permanent site, that would be the plan.
Sure, thank you.
Jessica Daniels for the record. We have been at maximum capacity and looking for a site for 18 years. We are always full with a waiting list. We would love to be able to grow. Our problem has always been to be able to find a site. So are we at maximum enrollment? Absolutely. Today we were saying, oh boy, we're stuck with a waiting list again. So I so appreciate your flexibility and your willingness to be flexible, but there are restrictions that are put on it at the size of the buildings that we're located in.
I knew you had to come up. Any other questions of staff for the applicant? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Again, I'm not sure who needs to answer this question, but in your background and discussion paragraph, the first paragraph, you talked about their site, their, I guess, original site on 2263 Moulton Drive. And then there's another one that you were talking about that actually on appeal went to the Board of Supervisors and allowed use at 2211 Moulton Drive. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
That's
Okay,
correct.
so then it says that the one on 2211 Moulton Drive, the use was only allowed till June of 2025, which was like last month.
It was only allowed for 2 years,
Oh, okay.
and according to the special use permit.
So are they currently
we-
using that site still?
They should not be. We did start, we provided them with a courtesy letter from code enforcement prior to the end of their school year with regard to the 2211 Mouton site.
Mouton.
If they are utilizing it, based on discussions that we've had, it would be strictly for office space and storage, which is consistent with the code. No children would be accessing that site.
Well, I was just curious, you'd mentioned that in your staff report, and I just was kind of wondering what the status of that was. So as far as the city's concerned, there should be no children, it should not be used as an educational facility with children, but
That's correct.
offices are okay.
That's correct.
And is that currently the way it's being used? Is that correct?
Yes, as of the last day of school, then there are no longer any students there. The 2263 Mouton is the corners touch. And so that is where it had to be grandfathered in because, as she pointed out, originally it was allowed to be there. And that's the original site. We have had in this from January to June 3 different opportunities of places to go, and none of them have come to fruition. We have looked at for sites to relocate this school from 66 to 80 different sites, some of them as many as 6 times. Every deal we come so close to getting, it doesn't come to fruition. And as I'm seeing someone shake her head, she's been with us all the way on this. It has been such a diligent attempt, and you need a big area for a school, and all the big areas are in industrial. So
Well, and I can't imagine how much frustration that
it has been, yes.
put you through. I honestly think that this is a very nice solution.
Thank you. Yes, it's a win-win, I believe, for both the boys and girls and for us.
I do too. Obviously, there's going to be, if this is approved this evening, there's obviously going to be some startup issues. So let me ask a couple questions about that. Are you overlapping, so you're using the facility in the morning, and it identifies in the special use permit packet, which I think is by far a very good special use permit packet. So good kudos to you guys and your team to put that together. But the question I have is, are you overlapping with anything with the Boys and Girls Club in the morning? I mean, you talked about the
No, that's
morning.
why we have to be in there at a certain time and out at a certain time. So there is no overlap. Those are vacant spaces that we are occupying.
Okay, so yes.
We can't be in there until a certain time, and that's when all of their students have been released to the other schools.
Okay, so yeah, you do have certain limitations
Absolutely.
within what you can do and work forward. Okay, so that was one of my questions. And let's see, I think you've answered all my questions. We do have some public comment that I would like staff to address, but I think I'm done. Thank you.
No, not yet. I won't forget this time. Heather, is on item 6B,
Yes.
could we say there shall initially be no more than 89 students and 8 teachers?
How far do you want them to expand without additional review?
I don't know, because we want to tie it to traffic, and I don't know how you do that.
And so I think that's why staff proposed
I got a question.
permitting based on what they've presented.
Okay. Mr. Preston?
My question is right now you're saying that they can do 2 buses with the other things on here. will 3 buses trigger the traffic?
Chris Gonzalez for the record. It's not, another bus would not trigger because that's just a one trip, which would be like adding a peak hour trip of 2. Right now, they're saying that they're at a peak hour of like 27. And so if all the kids come off the bus and they use less buses, then that peak hour is going to go up as more cars with parents are coming to the site. And then what it's triggering is just having to have a traffic impact study, which right now with the low numbers they're providing, they don't meet the triggers for that.
So the question is if it was said specifically 89 students capped at that, but an additional bus would be okay? If it's 1? I mean, if we just clarify that, let's say they add, they could put in 30 more students and 30 more people on that one bus, which would not actually trigger this.
Correct.
Okay.
So they could expand with a bus. We're just concerned about the individual cars coming.
Okay, so what we have to do is we have to craft it. So,
I think the number 89 came from our bus can only hold so many. I think that's where it came from.
but Jessica, we're gonna get you a new bus.
Oh, Terry, I love you. You know I love you. Yay.
What's this we?
I'll be calling you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So in looking at what was noticed, it was noticed as a maximum of 89 students based on what they had presented. So if you guys are going to be looking at expanding that, we would have to come back through this process. We would have to notice and come back through this process. I think they're probably pretty close to at the end of their timeline for this year.
Well, I don't mind this as the way, and by the way, there are 6 conditions of approval. Are they all acceptable to you? Are they acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just trying not to have to come back and do this again in 2 years. That's all. Maybe there's something else we can do along the way later on, or I don't know.
Yeah, so I think if they're going to expand the number of kids here, they would need to amend their special use permit, which is not the full fee. It's a smaller fee.
If we say expansion of the number is contingent upon not exceeding the original traffic study, would that work?
No, because the advertised maximum was 89 students.
Okay. All right.
If you look at, I think, as Heather and the applicant have indicated, they're tied to 89 at this point in time. If you look at 6C, again, the wording allows for approximately 69, so there's some flexibility within that.
Mhm.
I think the applicant and staff have come up with 89, and if they want to exceed that, then they would come back and request an amendment of that condition. But they can certainly drop below that number. So it gives them flexibility with regards to a lower number, but 89 right now seems to be that bumping point, and I'm sure that's part of their agreement with the Boys and Girls Club about using that joint non-concurrent use of that facility. So I'm comfortable with the way the condition is worded now.
Well, I don't want to re-engineer this thing.
Sarah Lopsinger for the record. Just talking to Boys and Girls Club, if for whatever reason we do have 10 extra students or 15 extra students and we expand, and they are offering to use their buses, does that make us not compliant? I just want
What that does now is
clarification.
the application is.
So
is
you have
incomplete.
to be within the confines of essentially the application that you put forward, and assuming approval of the special use permit, that will have the same numbers tied to it. So you won't be able to go over that 89 without coming back through this process.
Okay. One more question, go ahead.
Heather, I was just curious about condition number 5. I know this stuff tends to be boilerplate sometimes, but they're not submitting a site improvement permit application.
No, they're not. That should be removed.
Okay, so if I make the motion, I can
Yes, please.
please make that go away? Okay. Mr.
right.
Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Public comment.
Oh, public comment, sorry. Thank you, thank you.
Public comment at this time.
comment.
Please come forward. Push the button until it turns green. When you're done, don't forget to sign in.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Rick Clemens. I'm the owner of the property directly north of the original Mooton Montessori school and east of it. And although I didn't prepare for this Boys and Girls Club thing, I don't think that it's right to approve another location when they haven't cleaned up the area that they got. It's a quagmire, it's a nightmare. We've been promised for almost 20 years that this is going to alleviate itself. We watch property values decline. They don't act like a school. We requested signage to show that it's a school with reduced traffic signage. They continue to direct the traffic when they're not approved to. They basically have taken over the industrial site. And so with all of our other, before they start messing up another area with maximum amount of children, they need to clean up their act at their Mooton Drive. Right now, they're completely overcrowded. Parents are complaining that they're jam-packed in a building that was originally designed for 60 people. Now they have 289. So removing 89 to a different location and putting those Boys and Girls Clubs in jeopardy, they're still going to be totally overcrowded in that industrial building. I've been there for 39 years, and I've seen it just escalate to the point where we can't do business. It's strictly, there's been a promise for 20 years practically. 6 months ago, the chief of the Complete Department of Carson City talked with Ms. Daniels and said, "This is your last semester. We've had enough of this." And so we're watching what transpires here. Like I say, there's no signage, there's no speed limits, there's no traffic control. And so before we start shoving kids at a different location for another round of this kind of treatment, they should be cleaning up their original act. They came in an industrial area 18 years ago, and for some reason, the planning department allowed a school which was prohibited, along with marijuana distributors, churches. So we don't know how that happened. And had a planning department took a half a second to look up the coding, this 20-year nightmare would have never happened. It would have been simply,
Sir,
here's the code.
your time's
You can't be
expired.
here.
Your time's expired.
Excuse me?
Your time has expired.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Don't forget to sign in.
Okay.
Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. You said you were ready.
Yeah, I was. I wanted to hear from public comment, though.
You didn't get any.
No. So,
Some.
Okay, I don't know how to do this. Can we ask Heather to respond before I make a motion to that? Or,
You just want to omit number 5, don't you?
I don't, yeah. No, but we can't respond to public comment. I was wondering if Heather would,
Okay.
to the best of her knowledge, respond to what this gentleman
So
has said.
as I indicated in my presentation, the 2263 Mouton site was established at a time where there was the allowance for schools in the limited industrial zoning district. So at the time that they established, it was allowed. It's no longer allowed, so that makes it a non-conforming use. So it was legally established. It, to the best of my knowledge at this point, is operating legally. If there are issues that we need to review that means that they may not be in compliance with different sections of our code, then we can review that. But to the best of my knowledge, they are operating legally at 2263 Mouton. Additionally, to the best of my knowledge, they are now operating legally at their other Mouton site because they're utilizing it only for office space and storage.
Okay, thank you. So we're really dealing with two different issues here. So we've got maybe a compliance issue up
Correct.
at the other side. And then here, we are basically focusing on taking action on this special use permit for the site.
That's correct.
So we really have two different issues.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to get that on the public record, and with that on the public record, I would like to make a motion, sir.
Go ahead.
I move to approve special use permit LU-2025-0250 based on the findings and subjects to the conditions contained to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report with the removal of condition 5.
Is there a second? Commissioner Preston,
I'd
second.
like to second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Heather, we're gonna make your other thing. Item F, we'll get to it. What? No. I said we'll get to it. Okay, item 6E, LU 2025-0254, discussion and possible action regarding the request of the Wingman Medical LLC for a special use permit to allow for the construction of 5 buildings totaling approximately 34,895 square feet and consisting of 4 aircraft hangar buildings, 1 storage building, and a commercial space to accommodate a restaurant, clinic, and retail use accessory to the airport on a 2.48 acre portion of the Carson City Airport property, Zone PR, located at 2600 College Parkway, to the east of the Carson City Fire Station number 52, APN 005-011-71. Heather.
Good afternoon. Again, Heather Manzo for the record. So the subject site is highlighted with the note where the site is. I did identify an existing landscape area across the driveway that accesses the site, just because through their request, they are looking to update the landscaping within that area. So that's already existing and not part of this special use permit request, but has been shown on the plans. So the request that's before you today is for 5 separate buildings. There's a storage building and 4 different hangar buildings, of which one of them will also have an attached pilot clinic, pilot shop, and a restaurant that's intended to be open to the public. With those hangars, there's a total of 8 hangars that are proposed within those 4 buildings. Because the use is going to generate very little traffic, they did provide information on how many trips they thought this use would generate. In reality, the pilot clinic and pilot shop are probably going to be serving pilots that are located within the airport itself. And so the restaurant at a little under 2,500 square feet would be the primary traffic driver for this request. And so with that, the application does propose the addition of new parking spaces along the front of their commercial use. In addition to that, and I did speak with the airport manager, there's a substantially large parking lot adjacent to this that is underutilized. And the airport manager did say that through agreement with the airport, that is open for parking associated with this use. So with that, we've got the 5 buildings. I did want to put up the 3D rendering of those buildings, possibly. I don't know if it's fading on your end too. So it's also included in your staff report as part of the application.
There we go.
So staff was able to make all of the necessary findings in order to recommend approval. And we did receive one public comment that was included with the staff report when it published, noting some concerns about traffic at the main driveway coming off of College Parkway. I did forward that to development engineering, and we did address that comment in the staff report. We received another public comment that I did see the comment maker in the audience, and I do believe that at the time of her choosing, she'll make a public comment to the planning commissioners. So with that, we are recommending approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, staff?
And
Mr. Cron?
maybe, Heather, if you can't answer this, maybe the applicant can. Just from a consistency look, are the buildings relatable or architecturally compatible with the other buildings that are on the, or in the complex there?
It looks like the airport can respond to that.
My name's Steve Takis. I'm the airport counsel. I'm here on behalf of the airport authority. Yes, we did look at the compatibility of the appearance of the buildings, and they are compatible.
So architecturally, they are going to look the same. So we're not going to have pink buildings with purple buildings, as an example.
No, in the lease that we approved for this project, there's an Appendix A that describes what the buildings must look like, and it is the same Appendix A that's been at the airport since I've been involved with the airport for 35 years. So everything pretty much looks the same out there.
A quick follow-up question, and how does this work with your master plan at the airport? Is this something that has been thought about for a number of years? I like the restaurant idea. Douglas County's airport, is a happening little place, and when I lived in Spokane, Washington, Phelps Field was a happening little place with a restaurant. So I'm just curious why that particular use for here. Is that typical when you have an airport of your size with a restaurant?
It is in the master plan. We have had restaurants there before. I don't know, if you've been around Carson City as long as I have, you remember Hagel's was out at the airport for a long time. When Hagel's moved out, we had a series of other restaurants that kind of tried and couldn't make it in that old terminal building. Part of the problem was the age of the building. But we haven't had a restaurant there for, I would say, probably 15 years or so. And the last restaurant really wasn't a restaurant. It was more like a donut shop. So we are excited about this project to bring some kind of small cafe back to the restaurant, back to the airport. And so that's really what we're thinking about that. I have to say, overall, from the airport standpoint, we're very excited about this project because we've had this property for lease as long as I've been there. For 35 years, there's been a sign out in front. We're trying to lease this property for airport use. And we've had proposals over the years, but some of the proposals either were not aviation related, so they don't meet the FAA requirements of what we can do on an airport, or they were types of airport businesses that we didn't think were compatible with the neighborhood. A loud maintenance facility is not compatible with the people who live near the airport. So now we found one that's quiet. It fits, it checks all the boxes for us. So from the airport standpoint, we're pretty excited about it.
Thank you.
Heather, do they have to have a grease trap?
Just because I sit in meetings all the time, yes, any restaurant service would need one. And I did want to go on the record, one comment that was provided in late material was really like, why is this special use permit required? So I guess I should probably lay that out on the record here. So because the airport is public zoned, our code allows for developments under a certain square footage. This one actually triggers development over that square footage. And also, with our code, it requires a special use permit to establish the maximum height of the buildings and the setbacks. So as we'll see in condition number 6, those are all laid out based on the proposed application and is recommended. So that's why the SUP.
All right. And the airport's lease agreement that's in here, is that kind of an omnibus that lays over the whole airport, and then people, when they lease property, are amended to it? Because I noticed there are several, cell towers and other things in there that aren't necessarily on this piece of property, but are leasees from the airport. Is this just another leasee addendum to kind of a master lease?
Yeah, we do have a master lease that we utilize. It's actually a template that we use, that we have developed over the years with the district attorney's office. And that's what we use for hangar projects.
Okay.
We do have a separate template that we use for antenna towers. We were fortunate enough to have AT&T come to us and wanted to put their antennas on our beacon tower. And we negotiated a deal with them that if it was strong enough, they could show us structurally, we'd hang antennas and lease them some space. Or alternatively, they could build us a new beacon tower. They built us a new beacon tower. Now we have 4 different cell phone companies hanging their equipment on there, which is a great revenue source for the city. So that one is different. Hangars are pretty much the same. And then we have a separate template that's more involved for repair facilities.
Well, it was all included in our material.
Right.
And I'm assuming that it was a kind of an omnibus type deal, because I know there's no cell towers on this piece of property.
That's correct.
So, okay.
That's correct.
Commissioner Peterson.
Mr. Takis, how have you been?
Good.
Good. My question's for you. So I'm looking at Building 5 on this overview. What is that going to be storing? Is that going to be like equipment in Building 5? It's the most westerly building on the plot. It's the smallest building, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
I'm going to have the engineer.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm going to add, my name is Karen Downs. I'm with Manhard Consulting. And I do have some more presentation materials if you'd like to see that with questions. But generally, that is equipment related to the uses on site.
I see.
So it's a small, I don't know if you want to pull up either your site plan or the site plan in our presentation, but it's shown here as Building 5. That's on the
Smallest
site.
one on the left?
The smallest one on the left, yeah.
I was just curious what was in there. And the hangars themselves, are those going to be open to like highest bidder, whoever wants to put their plane in there, who's going to purchase that hangar? Or are they for doctors, their planes, medevac? Who gets to use the hangars?
Okay, so the tenant in this case, which is Wingman Med, they will decide who can store their aircraft there. There's a long waiting list for pilots who want to store their aircraft, so they're going to have no shortage of customers in that regard. But they will set the criteria for who can store aircraft in their hangar, because ultimately they're responsible.
So that'll kind of subsidize their outlay, more or less?
Yeah, in all these hangar projects, it's typically a developer comes in, builds a bunch of hangars, and they either lease
them
out
out.
use of the hangars, or there's a provision in that lease that allows them to create a hangar owner association and condoize the hangars and basically sell the hangars to the various tenants.
Will there be a dedicated hangar for, like, say, a medevac, jet, or plane, or anything like that? Is that part of this? Or is it just pilots building a cool place to hang out?
Well, I don't want to speak too much for Dr. Roxo, and he's here and can probably address that, but it's not designed for a public medevac arrangement. These are a couple of doctors, former Navy pilots who are both medical doctors, who do what I perceive as nationally recognized medical evaluations for pilots. They take on the complex problems. They also do flight reviews. Each of us as pilots need to have a flight review periodically, depending on the category of flight the aircraft.
And that's what they'll do in the clinic?
That's what they'll be doing.
That's
in
what the
clinic.
clinic's for?
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yes,
see.
exactly.
And if
Very
I
good, thank
understand,
you.
if I understand correctly, the only place now to get a flight physical is in Reno.
Yeah, Dr. Hiley was the only one who was doing them in Carson for a while, so this will bring that back to
Yeah.
Carson City.
So
yeah.
this would be a service that would be needed in this community for at least the pilots that fly out of here.
Very much so.
Commissioner Cron.
Yeah, one last question for the applicant and Heather, I guess. On this site plan, I'm seeing a lot of landscaping. Historically, the airport has said, no, 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 it's kind of like, a crucifix. It's like, no landscaping. And so I am excited about this. So let me ask the question for the record. So even though the landscaping on as I understand it, Heather, the landscaping on the right side of the driveway isn't a part of the special use permit, that other landscaping will be a requirement if we pass the special use permit. Is that correct?
That is
Approved.
correct. However, as condition 5 notes, you're correct. The airport manager has really expressed concerns with certain types of landscape materials, especially trees that attract birds. So with condition 5, the applicant will need to present the landscape plan, the final landscape plan that they want to install to the airport, and that will need to be approved. There is a note in the landscape section of our code that should the airport manager note the reasonings that certain things can't be placed the way that they're shown here, the director is able to review that plan and accept it. And that's what we've done previously with these projects.
While I certainly understand the issues related to attracting birds and animals that you really don't want near an airport, I get that. But it's awful sterile when you drive along College Parkway and all you see is chain link fence with slats in it. And so I thought this was refreshing. So that's why I wanted to find out exactly what the thoughts were and where we would go. I'd hate to have the image in my head of this and I end up with just rock with a boulder or two scattered around.
Yeah, that was a great question, and I had the same feeling when I saw the plan myself. But safety does trump the aesthetics in this case.
And I understand that. I just was like, woohoo, it's gonna look a lot better than a fence with slats in it. So, all right, thank you.
All right, there are 6 conditions of approval. Are they acceptable to the?
Yes, sir. We have reviewed them with staff and they're acceptable.
Are there any further questions of staff or the applicant?
Yeah, just a quick question. What's going on in the area behind building number 1 and north of building number 5? And then a second question, the plan submitted, and I know we're supposed to be just concerned about land use issues, showed the site draining to a detention basin on the east side of the access point, and a second one, I think, with the traffic report showing a detention basin on site south of building 5. So I was just curious. I know it's not final at this point in time, and development engineering will be taking a look at the drainage plan when it's submitted, but I was just curious.
So on the second question regarding the detention area, that was something that kind of changed over time since the traffic study and then through agreement with the airport to use that landscape area as detention. And then the first question you had on what's going on between
the cell tower and building 5 and building 1.
That would just be the open space undeveloped area.
Okay.
Any further questions? Public comment? Come on, Navy, you can talk. Okay. Back to us? No public comment? Can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve special use permit LU 2025-0254, subject to the required findings and with the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
Is there a second? There you go. Commissioner Peterson seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. 6F, 2025-0251, discussion and possible action regarding a request from Building Concepts for an amendment to a special use permit modifying condition 8 as it relates to the minimum access road width on Highway 50 West to the approved single-family residence in order to reduce the impact of grading and to preserve mature trees located along the access easement on property located within the Skyline restricted area considered a hillside development in Zone CR and single-family 5-acre located to the north of Highway 50 West on portions of APN number 007-051-84, -82-09, and -70. Heather.
Thank you. I have no idea how this fade ended up on this PowerPoint, so I apologize. But the slide is coming. So the Planning Commission saw the request that was originally for the access way that we're talking about tonight, as well as the reason for the developed access, which is a residence that's, that location is highlighted with that red square. So the applicant received approval with condition 8 that required the access to be designed to rural roadway standards, which required a 26-foot wide minimum roadway. And when the applicant went out to survey the site and really establish where the boundary of the development was going to be, they recognized there were going to be approximately 45 trees, that some of them are mature that would have to be taken out to accommodate that with the roadway. Additionally, there's significant grading associated with any development. So the wider the footprint, the more you need to grade in order to get that in there. So the applicant did meet with staff following approval of the special use permit to express these concerns. And today they are before you requesting that they be allowed to have a 20-foot wide access way if possible. So there is a section of code that was referred to several times in the staff report. It's the engineering requirements for the number of parcels that are served by an access and what that roadway width has to be. So what the code says is that if there's 4 or less parcels being served by the access way, then you can have a 20-foot wide access. If it's serving more than, or 5 or more, then it needs to be 26. So that's established in code already, which is why the condition for condition number 8 has been amended to note that, because the applicant has brought forth one solution, which is the applicant owns several parcels up by the subject site where the house is going to be going. And so their proposal in the application is one of the solutions would be to consolidate the parcels so that there are several less parcels being served by the access to get under that 5 or more standard. So the way that the condition reads now, they could do that. They could demonstrate that parcels are no longer being accessed by this access way. There are several different ways to achieve that. So that's why the condition's drafted the way it is. Staff is supportive of their request, noting that it'll be saving trees and that really there's so little traffic going in and out of here that the rural roadway standards are probably a little bit more than what's necessary to serve the site. So staff is recommending approval. I didn't receive any public comments on this item, and I know the applicant's present for questions.
Okay. Questions for staff?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Of course.
Of course, I had a couple. One of the questions I had to do with condition 11, and I know we're talking about a different condition, but a part of this, I am personally open to this change. I'm just wondering something about the cascading effect of the Open Space Committee. One, has this original proposal been to the Open Space Committee, and what have they thought of it? And second, now all of a sudden, how is this going to work? There are easements up there, there's conservation easements up there, and property lines might be disappearing. How is that all going to play into this?
Those are great questions. And while we can't change condition 11 because of how the scope of this request, I'd be happy to explain it. So we did speak with Parks when the request came forward, and their staff had no concerns because the easements are going to remain the same. They're pretty wide easements that'll accommodate more than just the 20-foot or 26-foot wide roadway. So the easements and the development will not have an impact on the conservation easement that is established in this area. In terms of the conservation easement and what's spelled out in there, what geographic areas that would include, none of that will be modified by this request at all. So essentially, there's no impact to condition number 11. And I feel like they had gone to the open space committee following planning commission approval. So the applicant can confirm that if you'd like.
Oh, thank you.
For those of you who weren't here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Any other questions for staff?
Having to do with the grading, and maybe the consultant can answer this. Hi, Joe. How are you? Hey, with finding number 5, okay? It talks about a negligible impact on stormwater runoff. That's a very, very long road. And how are you handling stormwater runoff on such a long road, even if you take it from 26 feet to 20 feet, if that's what eventually happens, how are you handling all that runoff that's going to come from those roads, or what is your thoughts on that? I guess to me, just negligible, I'm concerned with that adjective.
Sure.
I just was curious.
We were hoping just to ignore it. No, I'm kidding. For the record, I'm kidding.
Let it rain. Always get that last phrase in, yeah.
Thank you, yeah. No, as part of the design, when we get that far, we're going to have a roadside ditch that's going to collect it. Right now, the water just comes across. Some of it runs down the road, some of it cheats across the road, and we would control it with a roadside ditch. And the roadside ditch would be designed to handle the amount of water coming to it. So parts of it might be riprap line, things like that.
Okay.
But it'll be an improvement when it's done.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right. Then the other question I had related to this road width issue, you're proposing, or at least what is proposed, like you would be saving 40-some trees, correct? Now, have you gone up there and, I guess the question is, I'm a little curious how you came up with that number. Have you gone up and surveyed your road alignment, and then did your cross sections, and how did you come up with that number of saving 42 trees based on this change?
Thank you. And the number might be a little more, but we surveyed a portion of it. And what we did is we walked the existing road alignment and we just visualized it as what we did. We said, if we have to do a 26-foot wide road, it's 26 feet, but then there's drainage ditches, there's cut and fill slopes. And by the time you get all that, we just kind of drove it and walked it and said, that tree's got to go, that tree's got to go, and just kind of tallied them as we went, quite frankly. And we're going to go out and do a full survey, but the cost to do the survey is going to be somewhat dependent on how wide of a road we have to do. If we only have to do 20 feet instead of 26, and then we can do, and I'll get into this in a minute, a driveway portion to serve a parcel, we can really minimize trees, and it gives us more mobility to meander through the trees, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and the reason part of this is, as presented in the staff report, part of the reason for this change is also saving some trees. Not
Right.
the only reason, but that's
Correct.
that's highly identified in the staff report as a reason to go there.
When we went up there, and if, you don't have to pull it up, Heather, but if it's easy to get to the one that shows the parcels, you can see with the aerial image, once it shows up there. There we go. The lower parcel, that sawtooth one, if you will, stair-stepped one, that's the Schulz parcel. That's steeper than it is treed, but once you get to the north end of that and get into parcel 09, you start getting into a lot of trees, and it just gets worse as you go farther up. And there's a lot of old growth trees up there, so not only are we having to get rid of trees, but some of these trees are 36, 42 inches in diameter. And there's just no way to get around them with a wide road. So that's really our biggest concern is, they don't want to tear down a bunch of trees. That's why the owner of these parcels is up there. He likes the nature of the environment, if you will.
Sure.
So we're trying to figure a way to minimize those trees and just, circumvent them, if you will.
Do we know which parcels you're going to combine and which parcels are not going to be combined yet? Because I don't think it says that in the staff report.
We
Did it?
think we-
So I'm sorry,
Oh, no,
Joe,
go ahead.
and you can speak to it after I address it. So I want to just note that a lot line consolidation is not required as part of the special use permit, so that's why it wasn't included in the package in terms of the staff report. I do think that applicant had noted the parcels they were thinking that they would consolidate, which are the one with the red box on there, the one to the south of that, and then the second one above the Shoals parcel. However, like I said, there are other ways to get to the same goal, so we did not put that in as a requirement.
Thank you.
And if we can, Dave from my office is going to hand out just an 11 by 17 figure that shows what we were thinking, how we're going to consolidate parcels. But if you look at it, and just to clarify, originally what we were thinking were the parcel with the red box, the parcel, that's parcel 84, the parcel to the immediate west, which is 83, and then that L-shaped parcel just below those two parcels, which is 80, I think it's 82 or is it 85? 82. I think so it's 82, 83, and 84. So basically the three in the upper, if you will, in the upper left corner there. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Just for your record.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may. I don't believe that that material was in the staff report. Is that correct? That's correct. Can we just make sure that there are a couple of copies available for the
Yes.
public to view on the back table?
Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought that question was going to come up, so I thought it'd be easier to just have a graphic seeing what we're thinking of doing. Correct.
It looks like this.
So the image on the left is existing, the image on the right would be the parcel consolidation. You're welcome.
But
Sometimes it takes me a minute to get there.
the conditions of approval don't necessarily specify that that's a requirement. It just gives you the option, which I think is the best thing we can do anyway.
Correct.
Instead of standing around here telling you what you need to do, we just give you the choice and you can figure it out.
Right. One of the requests we put in the SUP application was at some point being able to get to a driveway, which would be 12 feet wide, to serve the upper parcel or two. And then in working with staff, I believe, and Heather, sorry if I misstated, but generally speaking, I think what it says is if we want to get below 20 feet, get to a 12-foot wide driveway, or get to a driveway in general, the driveway can only serve one parcel. So for us to get to one parcel, we'd have to consolidate yet another parcel. And what we were hoping is if we could go from right now, it's serving 4 parcels to maybe doing a consolidation and having a 12-foot wide driveway serve 2 of Mr. Hachuli's parcels. And that would be parcels 82, 83, 84, all as one, and then parcel 09. So basically, once we got past the Schulz Ranch parcel, which is that lower stepped parcel, at that north parcel line, going from 20 feet wide to 12 feet wide to serve the last 2 parcels. Although code says you can only do one, so I just wanted to make sure I don't cloud that issue. But Mr. Hachuli owns all those parcels up above. They're vacant, nobody's using them. And if he or anybody wanted to develop those any further, they would be conditions set, in a building application to develop those parcels. So that's why we were thinking maybe we could do that, but it's a request.
And that request would go through the fire department, because their concern is going to be getting up there and then being able to get back out.
Correct. And if we did, whatever we did up there, we would have to have a means for them to turn around. So whether it's 20 feet wide or 12 feet, we have to allow them to turn around.
Because they never back up.
Yeah.
You
And
don't
if
wanna-
I may, Mr. Chair.
You don't want to back up on that road.
Go ahead, Heather.
So in terms of the conditions, you'll note that we didn't discuss the driveway at all. That's because the driveway standards are actually in a separate section of code. And then on top of that, because of the location, we're in the wildland urban interface area, which may modify what engineering would say they could have. So we didn't address the driveway, but through discussions with engineering, a driveway can only serve one parcel. So that is where we're at there, but we didn't put it in the conditions because we want to make sure when it changes to a driveway serving one parcel, it will meet fire code as well as our engineering requirements.
Okay. There are 16 conditions of approval now, the new ones.
So I believe the other conditions, I'm not sure how that works. Right, nothing's changed, and we already accepted all those conditions, so we don't have an issue with those. What I want to make sure when we leave here, and if that's working with staff or whatever, we want to still be able to have the conversation as to whether or not we could do a driveway width to serve what would be 2 parcels. And not have to come back to you for a, you know, as much as I like you, Brian.
The change is in condition number 8. And if that's acceptable, that's one piece.
Yes. Okay, so we could just coordinate at the staff level on that? Okay. So
I'll just restate for clarification that the driveway standards are in a different section of code. It's not considered an access way per this section of code that's referenced in condition 8. So that's a separate issue that can be reviewed through the permit stage with fire and engineering.
Okay. But condition 8 has changed from the original SUP.
yes.
Yes, it has.
Okay, and the question is the change acceptable to you?
Yes. So I think we could say we're okay with 8. So the change of condition 8 is acceptable?
Okay.
Yes.
And we're gonna work on the driveway thing,
Yeah, we'll talk with fire and engineering.
okay? Any other comments from staff or from the council? Okay, public comment? Hearing none, okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I move to approve the amendment of the conditions of approval associated with LU-2025-0251 based on the findings and subjects and the conditions of approval contained in the staff report, specifically with the change to condition 8.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Prizell seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And Heather, let's make this part of the record that we've got.
Yeah, we'll incorporate that into the record.
Okay. Would that be acceptable?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your road. We'll all come up for the party. Item 6G, LU 2025-0252. Discussion and possible action regarding the request from the State of Nevada Legislative Council Bureau for a special use permit to allow for the construction of a new 89,250 square foot, 3-story office building, 4-level parking garage to accommodate 609 parking stalls, and a 13,262 square foot, 2-story facility and operations building on property zone P located at 333 East 5th Street and 201 East 6th Street. Parcel number APN 004-062-08 and 004-065-01. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. The applicant is proposing to construct a new government office building, facilities and operation building, and parking garage. These facilities will address overcrowding, outdated infrastructure, and operational constraints at the current Legislative Council Bureau headquarters. The project is proposed to be constructed on 2 separate parcels located at the southwest corner of East 5th Street and South Stewart Street. Since the improvements are proposed across public rights-of-ways and lot lines, an abandonment and a lot line adjustment, or a lot line deletion, excuse me, will also be required. Both parcels are zoned P, and public uses such as government facilities over 2,500 square feet in size are allowed in the P zoning district, subject to first obtaining a special use permit. Additionally, a special use permit is required to establish the setbacks and maximum height of structures for the project. The property, as you can see here, is adjacent to the downtown mixed-use zoning district. So while the project is not located in the downtown mixed-use zoning district, the project has been designed with the proximity of the downtown in mind. The facilities and operations building, if I can get there, is a simpler design. It's 32 feet in height to the top of the parapet wall and will include materials and color palettes consistent with the larger office building. The parking garage will be immediately adjacent to the facilities and operations building and will be 32 feet in height with 2 enclosed stairwells on the north side of the garage, which is interior to the project, that will not exceed 48 feet in height. The parking garage and facilities buildings will include articulation to provide visual interest along the streetscape. The office building will be 48 feet in height to the top of the roof, 58 feet to the top of the parapet, and have a 25-foot step back to the screened roof-mounted mechanical equipment, which will have an overall height not exceeding 68 feet. The office building is in keeping with the type of building expected in the urban mixed-use area of the downtown mixed-use zoning district. And this is out of our development standards, so this shows you what's kind of expected in that area. The building includes well-articulated facades on all sides, the use of fenestration, which is your windows and doors, and articulation to help step down the building visually. The site plan includes landscaping, which will provide buffers between the street and the buildings. Landscaping will provide additional visual interest along the streetscapes. The interior plaza will also be landscaped and include shade trees, and landscaping is required to be consistent with Carson City development standards. And we will require a landscaping plan and irrigation plan to be submitted with the site improvement permit to ensure that of compliance with Division 3 of our development standards. Additionally, the applicant will be required to provide a lighting plan for all exterior lighting to ensure compliance with our development standards in relation to lighting itself. There are 6 findings of fact that the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative. In order to approve a special use permit, staff was able to make all findings and is recommending approval, subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report. However, I did discover after the staff reports were published that condition 10 and 11 are duplicative. So staff is recommending deleting condition 10 as condition 11 more fully encompasses the requirement. We did receive public comment, and that's included in your late material. With that, I'm available for questions. Veronica Bardhan is here representing the project, and she also has a brief presentation if you would like to hear from her next.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. My name is Dirk Goring. I'm with the Nevada State Legislature Bureau. We have a few folks in the audience that I wanted to present. We have Asher Killian with Legislative Council. We have John Vietti, who's the Chief of Operations. We have Dan Ballard, who's part of our design team. He's with Ethos 3 Architecture. And we have Veronica Bardhan with Tectonics Group. We're happy to present this project to the Planning Commission. We worked real hard to make sure that it's it complements the capital of Nevada, along with the Carson City downtown area and the Capitol complex. I'll turn it over to Veronica for more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Dirk. Good afternoon, Chairperson and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Veronica Bardhan for the record. I'm with Tectonics Design Group that's doing the civil for this project here on behalf of LCB and the state of Nevada. You've already heard the background of this request from Heather, so I'll focus my presentation on the design specifics and the operational enhancements that makes this proposal both necessary and beneficial, not just to the legislative process, but to the people that depend on it. The vision behind this project, at its core, this is a modernization effort. The last update that were made to the LCB building was back in 1996. So this project is a response for the growing demands of the legislative operations. Staff are currently working in makeshift spaces. Critical support personnel, including police, janitorial, maintenance team, operate out of under-equipped areas with limited access. This new government campus is not just about adding buildings or parking spaces, it's just about supporting the infrastructure behind the scenes of governance. We're creating a centralized, purpose-built environment that allows legislative operations to function efficiently and securely. What we're proposing, it's the 3-story annex office building, 4-level structured parking garage, 2-story facilities and operations building. It's a quick overview of the site plan that you guys saw at Heather's presentation. The annex office building. This is designed with both function and civic identity in mind. It stands at 54 feet tall to the parapet with a mechanical screen extending to 68 feet. The materials include a durable combination of granite veneer, ACM metal panels, and energy-efficient glazing, and the design intentionally avoids blank walls with architectural articulation and public entries on all elevations to enhance the downtown mixed-use environment. The facilities and operations buildings gives the people who maintain our government campus, groundskeepers, janitorial teams, and LCV police a secure and well-equipped hub to operate from. Its placement and design ensure that service delivery is seamless and compliant. That's a quick elevations. I don't have colored elevations on that one. The structured parking garage, it's a 4-level garage that includes 609 stalls and addresses the chronic parking shortfall during legislative sessions. It replaces 250 surface stalls and creates safer pedestrian circulation through internal access and screening. Access, circulation, and infrastructure. So from an access and circulation standpoint, the project is highly coordinated. While we're not introducing new traffic to the area, we're reorganizing internal movement to function more safely and efficiently. The structured garage relieves demand on surface lots and public streets, while new internal routes clearly separate pedestrian and vehicular flow. We're also implementing key safety upgrades, a rectangular rapid flashing beacon at the 5th and Plaza crosswalk, ADA-compliant sidewalks through the site, and new stop signage at multiple intersections to calm traffic in and around the site. There's a traffic generation letter that was also included in the full package. The current on-site drainage, currently sheet flows to south to Stewart Street and flows south to the existing catch basin network. Our design preserves that existing condition, and we're not increasing runoff from the site. The project complies with Carson City as well as FEMA standards, and there will be no off-site drainage impacts. Along with that, we have included an engineer-prepared drainage memo that's also part of the SUP proposal. Utilities are also being improved. Segments of water and sewer lines, as you can see on the utility plan, that are being abandoned or rerouted into active right-of-way, creating cleaner, more resilient underground infrastructure that will serve this site more reliably over time. Next one. Why this SUP is justified. This project is consistent with the city's master plan and downtown mixed-use zoning goals. The design is compatible in scale and intensity with nearby civic and public uses. It enhances the public realm with better infrastructure, reduced surface parking, and safer access. And most importantly, it strengthens how the state of Nevada serves its people. It provides the space and functionality that allows our legislature to work more effectively both during session and year-round. We're proud of what's proposed here. This is not just a new set of building, it's an investment in how our government operates, how our public servants work, and how we plan for the future of Carson City. Thank you so much. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. This is Nevada state land to begin with, isn't it?
Yes, it's owned by the state.
Okay. Two things that strike me. Number one, we're gonna consolidate a lot of the parking, and I think that's a wonderful idea to put that parking garage there. But some of the concerns have been about traffic across Fifth Street and the pedestrian traffic in general. And I guess the question was, that I have is, number one, did you consider an overbridge, a walkover, instead of just relying on the regular traffic
Thank you.
crosswalk?
Sorry, sir. No, thank you. Dirk Warren, for the record, we did. The design team looked going above and going below the street. Both were financially high, and so we kind of just kept it at the street level.
Okay. The other question I have is, what kind of equipment have you got on the roof that takes a 14-foot screen to block?
There's quite a bit of HVAC equipment on the top.
Yeah, but even a 15-ton or a 25-ton HVAC's not any taller than 8 feet.
We're definitely happy to share
Yeah.
the specs.
If you go back to your original picture,
Correct.
the original submission before the screen was added, that looks wonderful. This looks like an eyesore, I'm sorry. It's just, you made a 3-story building a 6-story building. You know, it's 2 stories taller than your parking garage. And I just think it doesn't fit with what we thought we wanted for downtown.
No.
And I would like to see what we can do to lower that. I understand the reason for hiding it, but it just seems like that's an awful lot.
No, thanks for your comments. We're happy to look into that and see what we can do to lower that roof, that wall.
Okay.
And to reduce the size of the units.
Okay. Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will the parking be available for downtown events on weekends and things like that, or is it strictly limited to government employee use?
The new parking garage will be a public parking garage, similar to the one that we have now, where the top 2 floors are public. There's no access gates planned with this.
All right,
parking
thank
garage.
you.
Yep.
Mr. Preston?
Okay, has this actually, if we approve it, has it been funded?
It has been funded. This project was allocated funding during the last legislative session.
Okay, the whole full funding, not just the architectural drawings.
Correct. Yep, design and construction.
Okay, and my other question is, and it's not really clear in here, I see that there's going to be ADA sidewalks. But one of the things that we do have, and I can't see any of the actual setbacks here, is are these sidewalks going to be wider than the 4 feet?
They will be. They're, I believe, the ones along Fifth Street will be close to 8 or 10 feet wide. More than enough room for folks to travel in an opposite direction and stay safe from traffic.
There's another question, is that I know that we had done a special use permit for an apartment complex that was across from the DCNR building. And when we did that, we had wide sidewalks and we had planters and so forth. And I'm not seeing really, maybe I'm just not looking at the right page for any kind of landscape provisions.
So landscaping is shown. It's conceptual right now, so we would be looking for a landscape and irrigation plan consistent with our development standards at the time that they submit their site improvement permit for all their utilities.
Mr. Crone?
Yeah, I was curious if staff had the opportunity, city staff had the opportunity to share with you some of the public comments that we received. I didn't know if they're late material. I didn't know if that got to them in enough time or not.
I thought it was sent to them.
Okay, no, that's what, so that's okay. The public is weighing in on concerns related to the pedestrian aspect of the project, and specifically along Fifth Street. going back to your comment about, wider, or back to Commissioner Preston's position that a 4-foot sidewalk with all the people on that side of the street with only a 4-foot or 5-foot sidewalk is probably not enough. Is this then, so again, the public is weighing in on this. Generally speaking, at least the public comments we've received so far have been inquisitive, not necessarily opposed in the sense of being opposed to the project. But they're really concerned about the pedestrian aspect of it, how it's going to relate to the signs, to the crosswalk signs and those kind of things. So I didn't want to go through necessarily through every one of those to get an answer from you. I was just hoping that you would be able to get these public comments and be able to review them as a part of putting together the final construction documents for the project, to make sure that some of these comments are addressed, because I think they're really good ones.
We would be happy to. I haven't seen them yet, but especially as the comments relate to safety of pedestrians, the LCB that's one of our top priorities. We actually have improvements on the south side where this complex is planned, as well on the north side, because that north side sidewalk is only 4 feet. So we are planning making some improvements there to help with the safety.
Okay. I just think we need to look at pedestrians, traffic with a different light. If you're gonna put 600 cars in there during a legislative session and everybody's gonna cross Fifth Street to get to the legislative buildings and the complex, I think that's gonna put a lot of strain on Fifth Street as far as pedestrians are concerned. And, let's just give it the amount it's due, I think. So.
Yeah, and I would agree with Commissioner Borders. I'm more than happy to share with you my public comments. When we get a minute, I'll share those with you, Dirk. Oh, you've got them there? Okay, because I have them, and I'm more than happy to give them to them. The other thing that has been a concern to me, well, first off, let me make a positive statement here. It's nice to see the state investing into the Carson City complex. It's been a number of years since a lot of something of this significance has happened with the complex. We have had a number of conversations during the master plan process about the city of Reno buying land and putting buildings in Reno. And of course, in the Vegas area, there is a lot of investment related to the state legislature and some of the things that happen. So I'm encouraged, and I'm even more encouraged than I think Commissioner Preston was a great one. This darn thing is fully funded versus just an architectural fee, and then we never see it going. So kudos to her on asking that question, because that was a great question as far as I was concerned. So with that said, I'm really interested in, the only area that I'm really concerned about is the parking garage, okay? Because of the residential folks across the street. Everywhere else you've got, I'm not overly concerned about that, but could you walk through from an architectural perspective and a mitigation perspective along, what street's that?
7th Street?
Yeah, 7th Street. Can you spend a little bit of time talking about what the architects have done and the landscape architects or the conceptual plans related to how the residents across the street, this is because a 4-story parking garage is a big structure. What's nice about the massing is that it matches the other massing in the area. So some of your other buildings are of 3 and 2 and 4 stories. So I think the massing works from just an architectural point of view. But that's what I'm concerned about. So could you address that, please?
No, thank you. The residents to the south they've been part of the design conversation from the beginning.
Oh.
It is hard, right? As you stated, it's hard to hide the 4-story parking garage. There will be sidewalks. There will be landscape to help soften that. We've also had quite a bit of discussions from an electrical standpoint to help be able to manage the lighting, so that to minimize light pollution on these homes, especially during the times that parking garage is not active. We've located some utility functions such as trash enclosures, generators on the north side, away from the residents as well, just to minimize that impact to them. So, and one thing I did forget to say in my initial comments was we are, from a timeline standpoint, we are hoping to break ground on the parking garage and facilities building in fall, and then break ground on the annex in winter. So this is.
So this fall?
Yes, sir. So it's a very real project.
Wow, okay. Great. That's amazing.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, oh, I'm
Just a
sorry.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
My button isn't working, I apologize. Can you flash to the elevations of the facilities building, please? In your application materials, say the facilities operations building adapts a similar and functional layout with architectural consistency in materials and color palette, ensuring it integrates cohesively with the campus environment. Can you explain to me how this reflects the same architectural materials and colors as the annex? Because I'm not seeing it.
No, thanks for those questions. I want to let our architect comment on that.
Thank you.
It looks like a brick building, doesn't it?
Yep.
Dan Ballard, for the record. I'm the architect looking at the annex building. So I appreciate your comment on the mechanical screen. We too want to get that as small as possible. We'll continue to work at that. The compatibility, this portion of the building is actually going to be built out of with CMU, concrete masonry block. But they are going to use what's called a honed block in certain areas. So the honed block will look like the stone that we're using on the annex. So a honed block is a smoothed out, very similar to a stone look. So that's how we're trying to use that to make that compatible. They're also going to use the same metal panel. It's a silver metal panel that we're using. So I think this image here makes it looks a lot more dark than it really is going to be. But they'll be compatible in colors and finishes, with the exception that they're not using the stone. They're going to use the honed block in areas to accent that.
So they're not going to be using the granite veneer or anything like that? It's just going to be block?
Honed block, yes. A honed block has a very similar appearance to the stone, but I don't think they have any intent of using the actual granite at this point. If they were, it would be limited to some of the areas on those stair towers and the elevator towers at the moment.
Thank you for your answer. And then, Heather, I had a quick question. There was an indication in the application, there was some additional stop signs that were being proposed, and I'm assuming that's going to be up to the engineering department to accept those or require those. So I don't know if you want that as a specific condition.
We just put that in just because that was part of the traffic impact study, stated that, but it'll just be part of the site improvements.
Thank you.
I want to go back to my screen up there on the top of the building. What drove you to put the screen on after your first submission didn't have it? I'm not going to let this go.
I kind of got that hint. No.
I've managed too many buildings not to want to.
No, it is a great question. So the screen was added. We're in the midst of the design right now. So what we did honestly is we took I think you're correct, the mechanical units are probably going to be more in the 8 to 10 foot height. We didn't know that for certain, and we also have to work on the slopes of the roof to make drainage work. So we added a few feet to that just to say we don't want to come back and say we were off by a foot or two. We agree with you 1,000%. We want to minimize and use the lowest profile units we reasonably can. Again, it's a 90,000 square foot building, so these rooftop units are not just standard, 5-ton units, but we will work to get them down as low as possible. The screen has no intention of being higher than necessary. So if we can get the units to be lowered, we are completely fine with lowering it down. I apologize, I haven't looked at the screening requirements, but sometimes it's line of sight, so if we can also lower that screen height down, we have every objective.
That's the other thing. It is line of sight, and you've moved it in already according to our building codes. I just wondered what triggered this story, because Basically, to the civilian that walks by and looks at it, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. No disrespect to that. We added a few feet just to be covered. We fully think we can get that down a few feet, absolutely, and we intend to keep it down. If we can find units that are 8 to 10 feet, again, there's a parapet around this thing. We would fully drop that down to the minimum, or to the height we can get it.
Well,
We
you
have
got-
no need
yeah,
for having height.
You got 3 feet out of the parapet anyway, even if
That's
4
correct.
feet, you got 3 feet off the top of the,
No,
you know.
we're going to be able to lower it down. We'll get it down as low as we can. It's not something that's there because I think it's aesthetically pleasing.
It's
just
architecturally ugly. I'm sorry.
I don't like the word ugly, but I don't like it any more than you do. So, no, we will, and that's why we brought it in too. So from a line of sight, I don't
Yes.
think you'll see it as much as it's there, but we're working on renderings to show you. But yeah, we will bring that down. We have no reason to make it there.
I'll remember
other than
that.
I you can hold me to it.
And he will, and he will.
I know he will.
All right, there are 11 conditions of approval. Are you all acceptable? Or actually, we're gonna remove one of them, so there's 10. Are they all acceptable to you?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner,
Yeah, as reading through the public comments and being somebody that has been subjected for the last year to the closure on Second Street and the effect on our businesses, effect on our clients and customers, it has been really, really tough. So my question for you is, are you going to be closing 7th Street and Plaza Street and using them for staging areas like you did on Second Street for the Veterans Building?
Our goal is to minimize our impact on the streets as well as the businesses. We do know that there are businesses, especially just to the west across Plaza Street. We will be sensitive to them. We currently are working with contractors from a pre-construction standpoint to understand the logistics to make sure that we can get all this accomplished, minimize the impact of the neighborhood.
what is the phase of, you're gonna start with the parking garage, then the little building, and then the big building?
Correct. That's what we're guessing at this moment in time. Like I said, we're working with contractors. The parking garage is our top priority. We need to have it constructed prior to the next legislative session. So that's our highest goal. The facilities building will follow, and then the annex will be all kind of on its own schedule. And our goal is to have that annex building up, at least the shell of it, by the next legislative session to minimize the nuisances around that area, especially when there's increased traffic due to session.
Okay. Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, since the architect is here, I'd like to have him ask, I got a couple questions for him.
Dan Ballard for the record. Go for it. Let's do it.
If you would have sat back there and said, I'm not here, I wouldn't have done this, but I'm gonna go for it. This is obviously an infill project, is what it is. You're infilling into an area that's adjacent to our downtown, multi-use district downtown. You're tying into the campus, the Capitol campus. You're touching into what could be the master plan on the west side of the state master plan on the west side of east side of Stewart Street, and of course up against a residential area. For the public, because we have had, through the master plan process, we've had real concerns about how new development will look in the downtown area. And I was hoping that maybe just from a public information perspective is how are you using some of our codes in some of these areas like adjacent to the downtown? How are you using those to make that building work for you? How is this being tied into the campus structure with the existing legislature? It appears to me that you've given this great thought. So I wanted to get that out on the public record that, this is something that is truly been thought through from a lot of different perspectives, from a design perspective, color perspective, massing perspective, and how it fits into the overall concept of the downtown. I know that's a big
Yeah.
question.
I won't bore you with all of that, but I'll try to respond as best I can. So The LCB building that is currently under construction was actually a joint effort between another architect and myself. And so that's under construction, and we really, the design intent of that is really pulled over here, so it's compatible with the LCB. It was important for us, this building and the parking structure, to make sure the LCB buildings have something that kind of ties them together, and using that as a catalyst, right? I've seen some studies that the state is doing to the east side. I would love to do all of that work, right? But no, I've seen some studies, and I think it's compatible as well, although they might be using some different materials. But hopefully I'm answering your questions. But the idea is, it is important, I think, for the state to kind of have some cohesiveness, but also everyone's a little bit individualistic. So the type of structure we have here is somewhat, I'll call it simple, is we're not trying to be ornate or crazy in its articulation. It starts out as a very simple structure for a lot of good, what I consider architectural reasons. I presume that the other buildings that are going to be done for the downtown area are going to use some of the same vernacular of that study. The LCB has been very steadfast on, they want this to be a little bit tried and true, and that's why we use the stone in the first place, is it's something that's there, it's permanent, it's not intended to, hey, let's just change it out in another 10 years. They want this to last the test of time. So we didn't really try to bring in our own, hey, let's change the world. We tried to stick with what they've already set with the current LCB building and do that. I hope that's continued with the master plan, which is a significant project for Carson City as well. Again, I'd love to do all those buildings, but I doubt I will. So anyway, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. It's important, I think, for the community to know that, again, you're not coming in and trying to change the world, that you're being respectful to the architecture that is in the downtown. And what the purpose is, and the permanentness, if that's a word, the permanentness of the look that you want, that it's supposed to be something that's going to stand the test of time, and not like a metal building that you threw up just to, because we did. So that's really what I wanted to get at. It's something that you've actually taken some time, not only you, but the state as well, to being able to say, this is a quality project that I want to put forward to the community, and that it's something the community is going to be proud of when it's done.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's why the materials were chosen that way, is these stone has been used for quite a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson?
Thank you, Chairman Borders. Quick question for you again. You're not done. Are you going to do anything with the fascia on the existing Sedway building? Because it's round and brick, and what you're proposing is square and granite. So it's kind of like going to look like a stepchild out there on the corner. Sorry. You're fine.
I'm going to step
You got out of that one.
Oh, thanks for the question. Sedway building is part of the budget, and part of that budget includes the demolition of that building.
Oh, it is going to get demoed?
Correct.
Oh, I
It
didn't
will
know
be
that.
up for a little bit. It'll help us from a space capacity standpoint as we go through our building process for the annex building. But also, we also have planned renovations for the historical building, and might be needing that building to help with space.
Okay.
But it is part of the plan and part of the budget to demo that building.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Commissioner Preston?
Okay. If you're talking about taking down the Sedgwick too and adding some additional space, because that building, isn't really efficient as far as moving, housing people. I think it's very important that we actually talk about putting a skyway in. I can understand not putting something down below because we have so much hydrostatic water there and the geothermal. However, I think the actual skyway is going to be important. One of the things that I've noticed during legislature is that, especially if you put in the parking garage, we are getting more and more public interest in voicing their opinions. And what's happened is it's actually created some different situations there, because what they'll do is, instead of going to the legislature, I don't think people have civic classes anymore, that they will actually go to the Capitol rather than the legislature. But now, if you have a parking garage in there, I think you're going to see more of that too, and more public involvement in addition to the other. But 2 flashing lights and 2 four-way regular traffic lights in less than 3 blocks is a little excessive. So I hope you definitely consider that.
Yeah.
Like a sky bridge, skyway. I mean, I've seen some pretty simple ones. Doesn't have to match the facade of the building with granite and all that. I mean, a simple steel structure with, some wind protection, because in the winter, that's going to be a real bear for people trying to get across. But I go down East Fifth every day, and, during session, it's like it takes forever to get from Main Street to Stewart, because you got somebody, if you get the red light, you're going to stop. But then the two other crosswalks that are flashing, there's always a straggler. Then there's two more stragglers, It's a major thoroughfare. East Fifth is a major thoroughfare, at least from Main Street to, like, say, Carson Meadows. It gets you to the freeway.
You got
Yeah.
600 other people trying to cross that street. It's going to be awful. And I know you all said, well, we'll look at it, but that,
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
could, condition 11 actually requires the applicants to revise the pedestrian crosswalk analysis. And that revision to that analysis is going to put forth some potential mitigations. And it could include things like signalization, relocation, or elimination of the mid-block crosswalks. So that's yet to be determined, but that pedestrian crosswalk analysis would address a lot of those
Okay.
concerns.
Well, I just think that we think it's a bigger concern than you all probably did when you were drawing lines and figuring out what you wanted to do. And I think that's the message we're trying to send, other than the fact that that screen's too high. We already beat that one to death. It's inappropriate. Okay. Any further questions for the applicant? You guys have been good. Thank you.
Public comment?
Public comment? I hadn't forgotten. Yes, sir. We'll let them move out of the way. Make the light green. Don't forget to sign in when you're done.
All right.
Go ahead.
My name's Ed Skudlarek, Skudlarek. I want to start by saying I really appreciate you guys. And, it's great to have such intelligent and well-spoken people on our planning commission. And I thank you all for sharing your experience and your service to Carson City. I'm a Carson City resident. In general, there's much merit. I'm just going to read what I wrote before I got here. There's much merit in the public project proposed by the state of Nevada to redevelop the property where the Sedway building stands with adjacent parking lots. Actually skimming the application packet, the state makes the case for building and site features that comply with codes and regulations, master plan findings. There are concerns in Carson City regarding land development that may not be addressed in ordinances or state laws, yet need to be addressed to keep Carson City livable. The project proposal, in my opinion, could include elements that are beneficial to the neighborhood and employees of the state of Nevada. For instance, the building could contain space for a daycare facility for parents who work for the state of Nevada. The building could provide a surface for the placement of rooftop solar PV panels, thereby providing electricity to reduce loading on the electrical grid on summer afternoons and evenings and reducing disruptions during work hours. The grounds could include shaded areas using structural features and trees and shrubs to mitigate the taller building's contribution to the urban heat island effect in a high-density residential area. Heating and cooling demand could partially be met with ground source heat pumps. The state could help with traffic flow in the surrounding neighborhood by contributing funding to improve Little Lane, which connects to Stewart in close proximity to the new buildings and parking garage. Finally, increase stormwater runoff from the site as precipitation events become more unpredictable. Overload the drainage ditch over there by Governor's Field, and increase the flooding potential for the surrounding neighborhoods in what was once designated floodplain. The matter here is what runoff analysis will be used to determine mitigation for drainage features as the state of Nevada develops more of its properties. So those were my written comments before coming here, and I'd like to make a few ad lib comments. I used to work at the Nye building. For quite a few years I worked there. And one of the things that some state employees like to do is to get out for a walk on their breaks. And that could put a lot of people out on the streets. I know I was routinely taking my breaks outside, and it really worked well for me. So please take that into consideration with this project. And I'm going to mention something also personal. There was a day when I was leaving the Nye building for lunch, and I had crossed at Little Lane, so I could cross in the crosswalk to go over to the bakery, Schatz Bakery, and meet a friend for lunch. And so I was walking through the crosswalk, and I had checked for traffic, and there I was, and all of a sudden I heard a sound that didn't belong there. It was a winding engine, and I got hit by a car going 25 to 30 miles an hour, and I survived that. But it did contribute to an early retirement from the state of Nevada. I just want to make it real, I suppose, that pedestrian crossings can do harm. People can find themselves hurt unexpectedly. And the man who hit me was in deep anguish. I mean, he didn't leave the site for hours. I was told by the people who happened to see what had happened when I was walking across the street. I hope the pedestrian walkway and what state employees need in order to have a workplace that they feel appreciated in, you know. And as far as the environmental and climate change related concerns are, I don't think they're futuristic. You know, I ride my bike around town quite a bit. That's my favored mode of transportation. And so I know when I'm going from a more cooler shaded part of town into a warmer, less shaded part of town. And I can feel the difference. So I really do think that there is a challenge that can't be met with current technologies today to make Carson City a more livable place. And there are apartment complexes really close by this project, you
Sir,
know.
your time has expired.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Don't forget to sign in.
Yeah, I don't have a pen. Maybe
We'll steal one for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Hi, I'm Mike Rodgick. I'm a Carson City resident. I'm not opposed to this, but I just had a question about misusing state funds. I wonder if it might be easier to purchase and remodel the Ormsby House, which is 100,000 square feet and already has a parking structure, as opposed to building new. And again, if it's a question of being close to the other buildings in today's Zoom calls, I don't think that's really that necessary. That's my only comment, whether we could provide the space they need at a lower cost. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment? Heather?
So, I think I would have to defer to the applicant as far as whether or not there will be space for daycare. placement of rooftop solar, that's doable, assuming that the building is set up for that. Sounds like they're providing shaded areas in their plaza. I can't speak to the increased stormwater runoff, but perhaps Chris can do that. And we've all heard about pedestrian safety, so we've talked about that. And then with regard to the Ormsby House, I can't speak to the state's ability to purchase that and whether or not that's something that they would even desire.
Okay.
Stormwater will be addressed during site improvement.
Okay. Thank you for being here, by the way. You're better looking, Stephen.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know.
Steve's not going to appreciate that when he sees the film. Yeah. I'm ready to make a motion.
All right, go ahead.
I move to approve special use permit LU 2025 0252 based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval, with the amendment removing condition number 10 and condition 11 becoming condition 10.
All right, is there a second? Commissioner Preston, second. She was first. All right, any further comments, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you all.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just before everybody clears out, I wanted to make sure whether or not the commission would be adding the presentation that was shown to both the commission and the public at the same time to late materials. We have that. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we typically do that, but yes, sir. All right. Number 7. Staff report.
Okay, so we have Mackenzie's monthly community development report
Okay.
as of July 28th. So the building division, total valuation of permits this month is almost 13 million. Total valuation of permits in 2025 is almost 152 million. We
Wow.
had 14 housing starts, 8 single-family residential, 6 single-family attached, and 379 total housing starts for the year so far. We know what we did tonight. We do have a HRC meeting coming up tomorrow. We had one earlier in the month as well. So we had a Section 106 review for the Blackstone South project, demolition of a garage. That one was not approved. It was deferred until the September meeting. They wanted some additional information. And then the replacement of the windows for the final item listed there is going to be considered again at the meeting tomorrow afternoon. We have had an administrative permit hearing today. We had one accessory dwelling unit approved.
Was it approved?
It was approved.
Okay.
Code enforcement has opened 80 cases this month. 99 cases were closed. We done proactive enforcement on 24 weed cases. And we've had 37 parking tickets issued this month and 1 RV was towed, and we're continuing to do proactive enforcement for weeds.
I got one of those parking tickets,
Mhm.
and that has to do with half of the street on Second Street. So anyway, I'll be happy to pay my $15, or else do I wait 3 years and see if it's waived?
For business license division, we had 2 liquor licenses issued this week. One was for Sprouts Farmers Market and one for the Brewery Arts Center. And we've had 86 business licenses issued this month. Of note, Panda Express was issued their business license. I believe it was last week.
Did they finish that CMU fence? It looked like it was
Yes.
almost done.
Yeah, yeah. So upcoming dates, we've talked about most of these. We do have the August 27th Planning Commission meeting. Regular meeting will start at 5 p.m. Special events, Carson Home Furnishings Anniversary Sale and Barbecue is on August 15th, the Carson Mall parking lot. Battle in the Sierras, which is a boxing event, will be on August 16th in Fuji Park. And the 11 Amp Concert Series will be wrapping up on August 23rd. So going back to the August Planning Commission meeting, the regular meeting will start at 5, but there will be an early start at 4 p.m. in the Bonanza Room to allow the commission to meet the new city manager. And then on the regular agenda for next month, we have an SUP and tentative subdivision map for a townhome project on GS Richards. This is the site that you guys have seen multiple times behind Glen Eagles.
Yeah, one more time.
So this is a new project, a new project, different product, new project. Yeah.
Okay,
Same
but it's the one
location.
behind Glen Eagles.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we received an SUP for an application for a 6-foot tall privacy fence on the street side property line for a property on Armory. We have 2 abandonments. One is for the project that you just considered. And if we get a complete application, we will be bringing that forward. They're missing a couple small items. And then one at Lampa East, the multifamily apartment property that you've considered the zone change for just recently. And then as Hope discussed at the last couple of meetings, when the master plan was adopted, the board requested the Planning Commission review the land use map during the September meeting. So leading up to that meeting, Hope will be having master plan listening sessions at the library in August. They're planned for Monday, August 11th from noon to 2, Tuesday, August 12th from 5 to 7, and Saturday, August 16th from 10 to noon. So if any of you would like to attend, please reach out to Hope. She will be back in the office on Monday. You can shoot her an email or call the main line and somebody will help you.
Heather, can you email us that schedule?
Yes.
And Heather, I would like, I know that a lot of the commissioners are interested in attending, but I would like to see if we can schedule that so
In
that we can
advance.
fill in the slots, so we don't have to meet in the parking lot.
Okay.
Because we've got a quorum and figure out who has to go home.
I'll talk to Hope when she gets
Yeah,
back
if we
on
can
Monday.
do all that ahead of time, I think it would be much better.
And my question for this is, if you don't attend those meetings, is there going to be a report that will be given to us prior to the September meeting where we're supposed to review all this?
Well, you'll have a staff report, so I'm sure Hope would kind of summarize what she's heard.
As far as any changes, as far as the map goes itself?
Yeah, you'll have a staff report, so it'll be like any other item that's being considered. And then just lastly, you should have all received your copies of Title 18. So we have clean copies of the ordinance. It has not, you haven't received it yet?
No, I've received it. It's not clean.
It's not.
It's got all the references of, oh,
Right.
it's gonna be,
It-
have
It's not
blocks.
struck through. It's
Yeah.
not struck through, so at this point, it's not codified. So MuniCode is the company that we deal with to get everything online and codify our ordinances. Staff is still working through those channels for the time being. We do have clean versions of the ordinance without the strike-throughs and underlines, so it's easier to read. It's available and searchable on the Planning Division's website. And then you have the
It
hard
still
copies
has-
as well.
It still has all the references to, you go to section 18.102.3 and it says this section is.
Right, it's a clean copy of the ordinance.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
section is omitted.
It's not codified, so once it's codified, all of that stuff will go away. So we're still working through that. and you'll get new copies of that once we receive that. But at this point, it's a much smaller
Yes.
ordinance. It's reduced, and you don't have to read through the strike-throughs to figure out what's going on. It's the best we can do for right now as we work through the other issues. That's
It's
all I
much
have.
better.
It is much better.
The other thing I would like to remind the commission is that look at your calendars for November and December and recognize that we're going to probably meet early. Those meetings are already scheduled, but they're earlier in the month. And if you're not going to be here because you're traveling or doing something, please make sure that Heather or Hope or somebody knows you're not
Yeah,
going to be
they're,
here.
if I remember right, they're like a week and a day early.
Yep.
So,
They're like in the teens of the month.
right.
So, is there any, commissioners, any other comments? No? Public comment?
I did have one thing.
Okay.
I'm a stakeholder with the Campo, and they are in the process of updating their regional transportation plan, Campo 2050. And they do have on their website a bicycle and pedestrian comment map showing what is currently on their maps. We are encouraging people to take a look at that on their website. The map will be interactive, similar to the master plan map, where you can go in and add comments, drop pins on specific sites and make comments. They're looking for connectivity and where improvements can be made to enhance connectivity other than using automobiles. So the emphasis on that map is on bicycles and pedestrians.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All.
Gotta move fast. Gotta move fast in this crowd.